It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Last year, you said something about DEI, unqualified black pilots. You see a pilot on a black pilot. Don't you think it was an irresponsible statement suggesting that maybe these pilots aren't qualified or unqualified?
No. But I'll tell you exactly what I said and why I said it.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. I said, United Airlines is saying that they want 40% of all their pilots to be people of color or women. We have learned that we have relaxed standards anytime that we try to reach racial quotas. Anytime we reach racial quotas, we relax the standards. Standards for air traffic control, professors, or college admissions. Therefore, when it comes...
Hold on. So, so you have to lower the standards so you can hire black people. I don't want, just because somebody's black, somebody doing air traffic control just because they black, if they not qualified. And I don't even see how that could be feasibly possible. As if, say if you're a forklift driver, everyone who drives a forklift has to be certified. You have to take a 8 to 24-hour class. There are different standards for different places. So, I mean, you can qualify some people based on the training that you have. He takes it to a pilot. Let's talk about the normal jobs. Plumbers. You know, you think a plumber would lose a job to a black person because a black person's underqualified, didn't get straight A's in plumbing school, but because he's black, we'll hire him? I don't think that is how that works. You still have to have a certain level of skill. When you're working for a plumber and you don't understand what's going on, you don't understand what you're looking at, you're gonna lose your job. You gotta know what you're doing, no matter what you do. And especially if you're gonna be an air traffic controller. That don't make no sense. These are some of the best of the best. Pilots are some of the best in the world. Most pilots, you see them, they're older, they have 20, 25, 30 years of service. They've been in the military, they've been out, they've got their wings, they've had so many flight hours. I think they have to have like 10,000 flight hours, like some extravagant. But then you say they lowered the standards, like, oh, since you're black, you only need 5,000 hours of flight. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
To pilots or surgeons, if I see somebody who is black, as I said on the show, I'm going to hope that person is qualified. That's what I said, which of course is legitimate, because they're begging the question, we're not hiring based on merit anymore. We're hiring based on race.
We've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now.
So when you see a black pilot, you wonder, boy, is that person there because they earned it or because they were placed there? That's what DEI does. It makes you ask questions you otherwise would not ask.
So the airline industry is going to take an unqualified person just based off diversity.
Underqualified, not underqualified.
Unqualified, underqualified, whatever, uncertified, and put them in a cockpit and risk people's lives?
Those are two different things. Under and un are two different things. Of course, United Airlines will not take someone off the side.
Is under and unqualified two different things? I'm trying to
out of the street and put them into a pilot. But in order to reach a 40% goal, they might cut corners, they might accelerate the process in order to reach a goal. We know this through all sorts of DEI examinations and projects over the last 10 years.
Last year, you said something about
let's say DEI, a project of DEI at United Airlines was that we want to get 40% of our pilots to be black or women of color, or women or people of color.
40%.
50, I'm sorry, to get up to 50. It was at like 6%. So therefore, they wanted to make a push towards that, and it was currently at 6%. We look at that and we say, wow, you're going to have to lower standards to get to that goal.
Why would you have to lower standards?
Well, because...
Are you saying that black people are inherently inferior?
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that, A, black people are only 13% of the population, so you want 13% of the population.
Women are not 13% of the population. Women are 50% of the population.
Yeah, but women do not make up a majority of people that want to become pilots. In fact, vast majority of women don't want to be pilots.
Maybe they would want to become pilots if the barriers for entry weren't...
See, that now we're going down a different but equally fun direction, which is male-female differences. Men much more likely want to be involved in heavy machinery mechanics. They want to be pilots. They want to be tank operators. They want to be police officers. Whereas women much more likely want to be, you know, Ellen, I'll get to you, Mason, don't worry, and I remember your name.
Yes, can Mason go? They won't let him go.
I'll let Mason
USC.
go. I'll let Mason go. But just, Mason, have some patience. We did this last time, okay? But do you understand, at least from our perspective, because it's no good for us to go back and forth again, maybe from our perspective, that we worry that the pursuit of diversity can mean the compromising of excellence.
Charlie Kirk, this country is diverse. You can't just say the pursuit of diversity is compromising excellence. Diversity literally just means difference. This country is 13% black, it's 14% immigrant, it's 1/5 of every person in this country is Hispanic, it's 7% homosexual, and 50% of the country disagrees with you.
Let's say DEI.
I don't get it. So, in order for the country to thrive, you lower the standards so black people can thrive. I don't know if that's true. In fact, I mean, I don't see how that works, Charlie. I think you, like I said, I just think he don't like black people in certain jobs. It doesn't even matter if he don't even care if they're qualified. He don't think they are. He automatically thinks, oh, they took a shortcut because they're black. Oh, if the black guy is a doctor, they lowered the test. Like they was handing out tests. Okay, you get the white test, you get the black test. You Asians, you probably get the hardest test of all. You can't lower the standards across the board. If you lower the standards across the board, that lowers it for white men too, right? So when you lower the standards and white men get this job, shouldn't you be like, wow, he was hired after they lowered the standards. I hope he's qualified to do this, fly this plane, right? It's the same thing. Like if you lower the standards across the board, then everybody's underqualified. That's the same thing. That don't make no sense. So argument's kind of crazy. If you lower the standards for one and you lower it for all, then everybody just has to take a lower standard. So then now you inherently think these pilots can't fly. I was safer driving, even though it's likely driving ain't that safe unless it's 2025, planes falling everywhere.
A lot of people are saying that Charlie Kirk is being taken out of context. So let's talk about the context of this popular clip that's going all around and why it doesn't actually make his words any less abhorrent.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Okay, that sounds bad, but let's keep listening.
Well, that's the
you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
So Charlie is saying he doesn't want to think racist thoughts about the black pilot. That's not who he really is. It's DEI's fault, where black people are being rewarded with jobs that a more deserving white person would have gotten. That's what's racist. That policy is what's racist. And as this group of white men says, it's the reality that the left has created. That's actually making them more racist. But here's why this context doesn't actually make this statement any less racist. First of all, this isn't a normal thing that a normal person would think. Charlie's saying he can't help but question a black pilot's credentials. But ask yourself, if you saw a black pilot, would you think that? Probably not if you're not a racist. But more importantly, he's lying about this policy. DEI does not lower pilot standards. It aims to make sure that qualified diverse candidates are represented in industries that have structural barriers. All pilots, regardless of background, must meet the same verifiable experience. They take the same written, oral, and practical exams, and they have annual reevaluation. The misinformation that standards were lowered in order to let unqualified black people take the jobs of qualified white people, that is false, and it's been refuted. But ask yourself, who would circulate a lie like that, and why would they do it? The answer is white supremacy. See, a white supremacist doesn't go on a podcast and say, I'm a white supremacist and I hate black people. No, instead they insinuate that if black and brown people are being included, then the standards must be being lowered to include them. They'll say, they're not racist, this DEI policy is just unfair. But if black and brown people are not inferior to white people, because that's racism, then how could it be unfair to include them? They equate inclusion with lowering standards because they assume competence for white people and incompetence for black and brown people. Charlie chooses to frame inclusion policies as an attack on the white race, and he does this frequently.
DEI means in practice is the vehement...
All right, so have y'all answered the question? If they lower the standards across the board, does that mean the standards for a white pilot are also lowered? Are they lowered? So that means a white pilot doesn't have to meet those prior qualifications that pilots before him had to meet, because they are now going with the new qualifying standards because they brought in black people.
Hostile treatment of white straight men to no longer be in institutions and to be actively discriminated against.
Here's how I responded to that clip months ago. When you've always had the whole table to yourself, being asked to scoot over so others can join might feel like persecution, but it's not. It's justice. So the reason many of us call Kirk a white supremacist is that he lies about policies that help non-white groups, and he demonizes these groups, and he does it explicitly in defense of the future of the white race.
The Great Replacement strategy is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. And they won't stop until you and your children and your children's children are eliminated. The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white.
Let me say this very clearly. I do not care if America becomes less white. Just like I don't care if my pilot is white or my surgeon is white. And if you think that it's bad for there to be more black and brown people, and it's better for there to be more white people, and if your politics are driven by the desire to secure a future for the white race, that is white supremacy. A lot of people are saying...
Do y'all agree with that? I mean, what he's saying, these are not facts. These are just opinions of how, when Charlie Kirk says something, his opinion is that Charlie Kirk is being racist without being racist. Mind you, you don't have to be racist, but the racist, they think you are because of how the structure of white supremacy is. Of course, yes, we black people want to fight for more black people in certain spaces. Sometimes black people, we tell our own people, look, sometimes you don't need to be included in everybody's space. Okay? And there's certain instances you be like, see, I told that nigga not to go over there and mess with them white folks. We say that. And because a certain situation may happen and a black person will get the brunt of everything, and you know, some white guy get the slap on the wrist, and then we feel like we've been, you know, ostracized. But that's not always it. That's not every case. So I think it's just black people just want to be. Black people have dreams too. Black people want to be CEOs too. But you don't lower the standards of becoming a CEO for a Fortune 500 company just so you can hire a black guy. They still have to qualify to run a company. They still have to show that they are qualified. They still have to show they have experience. It's not just, let me thumb through and see if I can find a black name. Jarvis, there you go. I don't know, this dude's name is Jarvis. I just, I just find it crazy that we think DEI is the problem. DEI may be a problem, but again, #1 recipient of DEI was white women. Okay? I'm going to just keep saying that until y'all understand DEI was not just about black people. But they saying they must have lowered the standards for white women too. They must have lowered the standards for Asians. They must have lowered the standards for LGBTQ. They must have lowered the standards for immigrants. Because that's the top 4. Number 7 on the list is black people. So there's two other people who are more recipient of DEI than black people. So
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in its